Okay, cool. Let's see here. Cool. Hey, everybody. Hopefully, everybody's having a great Tuesday night. As always, I like to start off the videos by saying I want to send my thoughts and prayers to everybody out there, the essential workers right now, the ones that are working at the hospital, science labs, waste management, just everybody, that has to fight this whole thing head on, that has to fight this virus head on. You guys are God's heroes, man, and we can't thank you enough. But as always, I like to, just send out a message that we've probably all heard by now a lot. Wash your hands before every meal and after every meal, and always carry some hand sanitizer with you. That thing is a miracle worker. And if you got a cough, cough on your elbow, and just wash your hands regularly on a daily basis. And hot water, soap, 20 seconds. It does wonders of soap. It's a good thing. So, 20 seconds in hot water. So, you know, we got to keep doing that. And then for the ones that are quarantined in their houses right now, whether you guys have family or you're by yourselves, take this time to, self medicate, take care of the mind, take care of the body. Don't find a hobby, do whatever it is you got to do. Enjoy your time with your loved ones right now with the families. And if you are quarantined by yourself, like I said, pick up a book, read a, get a hobby, try your best, to stay sane because it's a weird time right now and everybody's handling it a little different, some better than others. But as long as we all do our part, I have no doubt in my mind that this whole thing will boil over soon. And once we all work together and we're all on the same page, the quicker this thing goes and the quicker we go back to living normal lives again. So hopefully everybody, takes this message seriously. So today, the Seahawks are on the board. They're on the clock today. But before we go straight into their pick, we're going to talk about their previous draft class and their season. So let's start off with the 2019 draft class that they had. In the first round, they drafted a defensive end out of TCU, LJ Collier. He only played in 11 games and only had 3 tackles. And we have 2 messages already. Julian Garcia with a thumbs up and Carla with the wave. All right. Thanks for tuning in, guys. So, as I said, LJ Collier, defensive end out of TCU, he only played 11 games and he only had 3 tackles. To the extent of it, he just didn't look ready. He wasn't ready to step on the field. He just, he's just a kid. He's still trying to grow, and he's a big kid. But we'll see where we go from here for LJ. I mean, only time will tell. 11 games was kind of a stretch for him in that aspect, only due to the fact that he only did have 3 tackles. So I don't know if it's just rookie wall, and hopefully he has a big sophomore jump. But for drafting him in the first, you want better production, but it just didn't happen. So it's tough, but hopefully the kid bounces back. In the second round, they drafted a safety out of Utah, Marquise Blair. He only played in 14 games with 32 tackles, but he did cause 2 forced fumbles. So there's hope there. There's hope there, and if he keeps getting better, time will grow on him, and eventually he might end up taking the starting job somewhere. The famous second round pick that Seattle did last year was the superstar of the combine last year, DK Metcalf, with their last second round pick. They took the wide receiver out of Ole Miss, and he was a freak of nature at the combine, man. He did it all from the 40 to the broad jump to the bench press to the vertical. He was just a freak of nature. He was exciting to watch, during the combine. I think I was drinking a Gatorade or I was eating something and I watched him run the 40 and I think I almost choked on a fry or something while sitting on the couch watching that. I like Metcalf. We got a comment. I like Metcalf. Really think he should have been a Raider. You know what? Metcalf should have been anywhere. It's a shame, really, that nobody believed in him, and that it's a shame, really, he was the last pick in the second round. But Seattle nabbed him. I'm pretty sure you look at other people that did take a wide receiver. I'm like, man, we could have taken that guy, but that's the draft. That's the draft, and it's a crapshoot. You don't know what's going to happen, but After watching that combine, you kind of had to take a chance, and Seattle did, and it's looking like it's going to pay off. So we'll see what happens in year two. But he did have 58 receptions, 900 yards, and 7 touchdowns. That's pretty damn impressive. So it was pretty good. The third round pick, they took Cody Barton, 23 tackles, or linebacker out of Utah, 23 tackles, 1 forced fumble, and 1 pass deflection. So he was usually mostly used for depth, but there's some promising hope there. In the fourth round, they did take a wide receiver, Gary Jennings Jr. He did not make it out of camp, unfortunately, and now is a free agent, so he's free to sign somewhere else. With their other fourth round pick, Phil Haynes, offensive lineman out of Wake Forest. He's a depth guy. He's a guard, swinging tackle, so he's just that extra lineman that they need for game day. With their last fourth round pick, they took Ugo Chukwa Amadi, the safety out of Oregon. Yeah, say that name 5 times fast. He played in all games, but he was a special teamers, and he only had 17 tackles on special teams. But he's a straight gunner, and he'll get there. So I mean, for 17 tackles on special teams, that's pretty impressive. And he's an athletic safety, so I mean, he's gonna be on special team for a long time, and I think that's his calling. I mean, who knows? Maybe down the road he'll find a magic spirit or something that'll get him to maybe be a starter in the league. But it's promising that you got a gunner like that in the fourth round. So in the fifth round, they took another linebacker, Ben Burke-Kirven, out of Washington. He played every game, but he only amassed 8 tackles and 1 forced fumble. Again, special teams guy, and that's where his calling is really. And that was kind of it. He's just a special teams linebacker, and special teams is, I always say, 1/3 of the game, but it's just everybody kind of forgets that part. So it's always good to have special teamers like that. With their first sixth-round pick, they took a running back, Travis Homer, out of Miami. He really was special teams guy, but when he only ran the ball 18 times. He only got 114 yards. That was kind of the extent. I mean, he really is an athletic running back, but he's probably used more for third down situations and special teams. So again, special teams is a key part of Seattle. So. And then with their last sixth-round pick, DeMarcus Christmas, the defensive tackle out of FSU, he was a healthy scratch. He did not touch the field. He's coming back, so we'll see what the deal is with that. Maybe after a year learning the system, maybe he'll get a couple snaps this year. Hopefully, that's the key for him. So we'll see. And with their last pick, a seventh-rounder, John Orsua, wide receiver out of Hawaii. 1 reception, 11 yards. Again, special teamers guy. Just 1 catch all year, and that was pretty much the extent of it. But when I think of Seattle, I think of a team that's just really gritty. They're going to pound you. They got a great running game, and they have Russell Wilson there, who's one of the better quarterbacks in the league. The only negative I can say about offensively is that line. I think he's been one of the most sacked players since he's came into the league, but he still is able to do his thing every single week. So, I mean, he's just one of the best ones, man. I mean, if Patrick Mahomes wasn't playing, I say that Russell Wilson would have the best deep ball throwing skills in all of the NFL. But with Patrick Mahomes in there, Russell's a close second. He's pretty good. I mean, I would take his arm over a lot of other quarterbacks in this league, and that's saying a lot. Russell Wilson is an incredible talent, so hopefully, he keeps electrifying the crowd this upcoming year. So the Seahawks ended up having a record 11-5. They were the second place in the division. They ended up splitting the division 3-3. They ended up getting a wild card spot in the playoffs. They beat the Eagles 17-9. It was kind of close, but then Seattle kind of took it away only due to the fact that Carson Wentz did go down with an injury. An unfortunate one, I should say that. Jadeveon kind of landed on his neck accidentally, and, that ended the night for Carson Wentz. And then here comes Josh McCown, who was picked up literally from, he was coaching high school football, and he had to help the Eagles win a playoff game. That was a lot for him to overcome. So they beat the Eagles 17-9, and The following week, they looked like they were on their way to an NFC Championship game, but Green Bay came back, so they lost to Green Bay 23-28, and that was the Seahawks season. They were competitive through and through. They, like I said, split the division 3-3, 11-5, and won a wild card spot. So I mean, they had a great year. It's just unfortunately things happen. Things happen to Seattle. Things happen to all the teams around that year, whether it's injuries or it's just sometimes a call doesn't go your way and it goes another way. So, but Seattle really is, gonna compete next year, I believe, too. With that tough division in the NFC West. I understand it's the 49ers and Seahawks right now, but the Rams give them fits every year, and Arizona always manages to sneak one win against Arizona now or against Seattle. So, within that division, when they play against each other, it's pretty tough. But overall, I think San Francisco and Seattle should compete for that division again. So it's going to be exciting. So the season was over. And do we have a question or no? No, no. Okay, it looked like we were about to have one. So sorry about that, guys. So season was over. We head into free agency. One of the first moves they did was actually bring in Greg Olson, the former tight end for Carolina. He's coming in now, and that tight end room for Seattle is no joke with Greg Olson coming in. Will Disley, who was catching fire, then he just had an injury that set him out the rest of the year. And with Luke Wilson, that tight end room is really impressive. So, that's gonna be even better for them since they like to run the rock as well. When you have tight ends like that, it's gonna be good. It's another offensive lineman out there. So they signed Greg Olson from Carolina. Cedric Obui, he played for Jacksonville last year, but what a lot of people don't remember about him is that he was actually a former first round pick out of Cincinnati with pick 21, and he just never lived up to that potential yet. So they're bringing him in. He could start or he could, be depth at this point. It's just he never lived up to that first rounder, but he plays really well in situational plays, whether it's another offensive lineman or it's a toss and is swinging out to the linebackers and corners out there. So he's athletic enough to play. It's just he never lived up to that first round talent. So then they re-signed Brandon Shell, another offensive lineman. Bruce Irvin comes back. This is his second stint in Seattle because he was drafted originally by Seattle with I think it was a 2012 draft. They drafted him at 26, and here he comes. And this is his second stint. He was with Carolina last year, so he's back home in Seattle he's going to transfer from linebacker to defensive end now. So we'll see how that goes. B.J. Finney, who was in Pittsburgh, offensive guard, he's now in Seattle. And this is what I mean, guys. The main priority for Seattle was that offensive line. They have to protect Russell Wilson. He's one of those guys who's been sacked. Every year he's always on the top of the list of getting sacked, and I think that was the main focus, was getting offensive linemen to protect Russell Wilson. And like I mentioned earlier, Luke Wilson, they re-signed him, so that tight end room is going to be amazing with all those three guys. Jaron Reed's coming back, the defensive tackle. Chance Warmack, he actually took. Well, it's not that he took a year off. Nobody signed him last year, so he was out of football for a year. He returns this year, and he's going to compete for an offensive guarding job spot. We'll see what happens, but he's back, and we'll see what he's got. I mean, I would like to talk about him. I mean, he was, a good player early in his career, but a couple of injuries kind of derailed him, and he's back to football. So hopefully he's all good and ready to go for next year. They did sign a wide receiver, New England, Philip Dorsett, who was a New England wide receiver. Now you add Philip Dorsett to the arsenal that Russell Wilson already had in Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. Now you give him Philip Dorsett. That's a lot of jet engines on that wide receiver room, man. That's a lot of speed out there, and you can put them anywhere. They're just gonna do their thing, and they're gonna be a really good passing team this year. They're gonna set up the run, obviously, because that's their first thing they like to do. They like to run the ball first to tire out the defense. But once they start passing, good luck because that wide receiver room just got a whole lot more interesting. And lastly, they did sign Benson Mayowa. This is actually his second time with Seattle as well. They did pick him up off the Raiders, which I was kind of upset about, but it happens, man. It happens, and I wish Benson all the best in the world. He taught our defensive ends right, man. He's a good leader to have. He's a good veteran presence. He'll teach those young guys, what to do and how to get better. So I think this was more for their first rounder pick last year for LJ Coulier. I think he'll help him out, and I think if I was him, listen to Mayowa. He's been there for a reason. He's been in the league for 8 years for a reason. So listen to him. So hopefully he does take the advice of him. So as far as I can say about Seattle, what I like about Seattle is offensively they're balanced and defensively they're balanced. They're a perfect balanced team. It's just there's times they shoot themselves in the foot, whether it's a costly fumble here, a missed muff punt here. It always seems like Seattle's always in a prime position to dominate, and then they just, whether it's blown leads or they just don't. Their weaknesses last year was finishing. They've had a lot of close games that they've won, which is always good. It doesn't matter because nobody remembers who loses. It's just people always remember who wins. It's just Seattle to me is too talented to not blow over some of the teams. Like obviously week one, we didn't know it at the time, but they beat Cincinnati 21-20, and that was because Cincinnati missed an opportunity to actually win the game. That was one. They lost to, I think it was the second time they played Arizona. They lost by 2 because they missed a field goal, and that's what I'm saying. They always put themselves in positions to not take advantage that they could have been the number 1 seed had they beaten San Francisco, had they gotten a better division record. To me, Seattle's a team that should dominate in the NFC, but they always find a way to shoot themselves in the foot. And that's why for the last couple of years, it always seems like their season ends short due to technicality. With the Green Bay, it was just they didn't have enough to stop Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers found a way, and Green Bay got it done. And that was the sad part. Seattle. It looked like it was going to be Seattle 49ers for the NFC Championship, and then they just ran out of gas at the end, which, it was, probably would have been a better NFC Championship game because the Packers just put no fight in that NFC Championship game. I think it was over by like halftime. I think San Francisco just kind of, took it easy on them at the second half, but that's for another day. But Seattle really is a team that, should dominate better. And I think they will this year. I think they should win the NFC West Division. As much as 49er fans don't want to hear that right now, I just think they're set up better to win this year, the division this year. So that's my prediction, though. But speaking of predictions, after all that being said, it is now time for my prediction on who I think the Seattle Seahawks are going to take with the 27th pick in the 2020 NFL Draft. Man, just man, almost one more week, man. One more week, and we get to hear that sound for real. And it's, it was just reported today that, Roger Goodell's going to be doing the picks out of his home in New York. I think it was his basement or something. I mean, which is sad because now we don't get to hear the longtime tradition of, fans booing him, which is something I always kind of look forward to. But, it happens. It happens. But next week for sure, it's going to go down. We cannot wait. As I mentioned, I think it was Sunday or Monday. Sunday will be the last video for individual teams. Monday, I will be doing a mock draft, my final mock draft on who I think after it's all said and done, who they're going to take. And then Wednesday or Thursday, I'm going to try to hook up with my brother, get the final word, and see if we can put our picks for a, because we're both Raider fans, a special mock draft just for them, just for, the Raider fans. But, you guys are all welcome to comment. I'll take any comment, anything, whether it's from, Chris Williams from Bill's Mafia, whether it's from Tom or, my good buddies that I made over the last couple of weeks for being guests. I'll take all the comments, but that'll be discussed later on within the week. So here we go. With the 27th pick in the 2020 draft, the Seattle Seahawks select Cesar Ruiz, center, offensive lineman or offensive guard, Michigan. Um, he's a good pick. He's a good kid, and you know, offensive linemen really don't get the love that they deserve when they do get picked because it's like, oh, well, all he does is block. Like, what's there to talk about offensive linemen? Well, there's more to it than just blocking. I mean, Cesar Ruiz has, he's the best center coming out of this draft. Like, he's the best one, and when you have a center that can do it all, like a Travis Frederick, a Rodney Hudson, a Jason Kelsey, who can see the game within the game, it makes your offensive line run so much smoother. They don't get the credit they deserve. Those guys, those big uglies in the trenches, they deserve a lot of the credit. And centers are the anchors to an offensive line. And Cesar Ruiz, high football IQ and an athletic player. Good pick, Michigan kid, right? That's right, Julian. Kid out of Michigan. So his measurables, he's 6'3", 307 pounds. He has a 33-inch arm length and an 11-inch hand size. That's right, guys, an 11-inch. So that's a big hand, and he's going to go up against, if he does get drafted here in this division, he's going to have to cover some of the best defensive linemen in the game. Arik Armstead, Aaron Donald, all those linemen that, Arizona has, from Chandler Jones, good luck to him, because that NFC West for defensive linemen is no joke. And it's going to be a tough one. But I would love to see that matchup, Cesar Ruiz versus Aaron Donald. That'll be kind of cool. But 11-inch hand size, his combine, he ran a 5.0840, 28 bench reps, a 33-inch vertical, 9.5-inch broad jump, 7.93 cone drill, and a 4.6 20-yard shuttle. So the kid's athletic, he's smart, and he has the accolades to prove that he deserves to be a first-rounder. He was a two-time All-Big Ten honoree, third team in 2018 and second team in 2019. He has 31 starts in his whole college career, 5 at right guard and 26 at center. So for Seattle, they can really put him at center right away, or they could put him at guard. Either way, he's athletic enough to play both. And you want to talk about, offensive lineman of the week. It seemed every week for 5 weeks, 6 weeks straight in 2019, he was the offensive lineman of the week for the Big Ten. And that's a very respectable conference. That Big Ten with, they have to go up against kids like Ohio State, and he's one of the better linemen coming out of this draft. I know there was offensive tackles that got picked up early in my mock draft, but if it was any other year, this kid probably would have gone earlier. But unfortunately, because of the situation it's going, this is probably where it's going to be, late first to early second. But if I'm Seattle and I get a kid like Cesar Ruiz and he's bunking with Russell Wilson day in and day out, your offensive line is going to be soaring. So now you got a good offensive line group, and now you got the weapons to make it better and could help your defense, take the pressure off the defense a little bit. And I think, Cesar Ruiz is one of the better linemen coming out this year. I like this kid for Seattle. I think he's a perfect fit for what Seattle's trying to do this whole offseason. That's going to wrap it up today, guys. I want to thank everybody that commented. I want to thank everybody that tuned in. Tomorrow, the Baltimore Ravens are on the clock. Lamar Jackson. That's the first thing I think of when, I think of Baltimore right now. If you tell me, back then, what did I think of Baltimore? I would say, Ray Lewis and Ed Reed. Those guys were Baltimore, but now it's the Action Jackson show, man. He's legit, and I'm gonna have to do a couple of shout outs to some scouts who kind of told them that, hey, do you want to turn to a wide receiver, or maybe you should be a running back. But all I can say is, Lamar Jackson, MVP. I mean, not bad for a running back, whoever that scout for the Chargers was. But that's for tomorrow. I can't wait. Baltimore's on the clock tomorrow. Today, Cesar Ruiz, Seattle Seahawks. So, Seahawk fans, go nuts. Do we have anything on the thing today? Nope. All right. Have a wonderful night, guys. We will see you tomorrow for the Ravens.